Today we journey into the heart of enlightenment to meet the one known as the Bodhisattva of great wisdom. He is the master of profound insight, the wielder of the flaming sword that severs all illusion. This is the story of Manjushri. From his celestial origins to his pivotal role in guiding countless beings toward awakening, we will explore the legend of this extraordinary Bodhisattva. Join us as we uncover the life, the teachings, and the enduring legacy of the one whose very name embodies the sweetness of truth. The origins of Manjushri. 1. Cosmic beginnings. Long before the rise of this world as we know it, before the mountains had roots, before the rivers had names, there was the boundless field of awakened energy known as the Dharmadhatu, the realm of ultimate reality. Within this expanse appeared luminous beings who dedicated themselves to guiding countless sentient beings toward liberation. Among them was one radiant bodhisattva whose vow was unparalleled. He would embody the wisdom of all Buddhas, and his name was Manjushri, gentle glory. In Buddhist cosmology, Manjushri is not a figure born of flesh, but a timeless presence, an embodiment of prajna, wisdom. He appears youthful, eternally 16 years old, symbolizing that wisdom is fresh, clear, and ever-renewing. It is said that at the dawn of many cosmic ages, Manjushri sat before countless Buddhas and absorbed their teachings, not merely to understand them intellectually, but to become the living stream of wisdom itself. In this way, he vowed to cut through ignorance wherever it appeared, to awaken clarity in the minds of all seekers, to ensure that wisdom would never be lost, even in the darkest of times. Thus, when sentient beings became lost in confusion and illusion, Manjushri would appear, carrying the flaming sword of insight in one hand and the lotus with a scripture in the other, two eternal symbols of his mission. 2. Early depictions in India. Historically, Manjushri emerges in the great Mahayana sutras of India, particularly in the Prajnaparamita sutras, which sing of the perfection of wisdom. In these texts, he is not a distant god, but a conversational partner of Shakyamuni Buddha himself. Often in sutras like the Vimalakirti Nirdesha Sutra, Manjushri is the only bodhisattva capable of conversing with the wise layman Vimalakirti, who challenges even the highest monks. Manjushri steps forward fearless to discuss non-duality, showing that wisdom is not about pride, but about courage to meet truth wherever it arises. At Nalanda University and other great Indian centers of learning, 4th-12th centuries, Manjushri was revered as the patron of scholarship. Every morning, monks began their studies by invoking him with the mantra, Om E Rapa Ka Nadihi. This mantra represents the 5 syllables of wisdom, believed to sharpen memory, deepen understanding, and open the door to realization. In this way, Manjushri was not merely a figure of faith. He was part of the living rhythm of daily intellectual and spiritual life in India. 3. The sword and the lotus. Every bodhisattva is remembered by their symbols. Avalokiteshvara, the compassionate one, holds a crystal rosary. Vajrapani, the protector, wields the thunderbolt. But none are as striking as Manjushri's flaming sword of wisdom and the lotus that supports a scripture. The sword, this is not a weapon of harm. Its flame cuts through the darkness of ignorance that blinds beings to their true nature. In Buddhist teachings, ignorance, avidya, is the root of suffering. Manjushri's sword is sharp, not because it wounds, but because it severs illusions, the belief that we are separate, permanent, and unchanging. The lotus in scripture. Upon a blooming lotus rests a book, usually the Prajnaparamita Sutra, the Sutra of the Perfection of Wisdom. The lotus shows that wisdom is unstained by the world, just as a lotus rises untainted from muddy waters. The book represents knowledge that transcends words, guiding seekers beyond concepts to direct realization. Together, these symbols tell us that Manjushri is both fierce and gentle, fierce against delusion, gentle in guiding beings toward truth. 4. Manjushri in Jambudvipa, our world. While Manjushri is cosmic and eternal, legends say he also walked this earth, shaping landscapes and destinies. The Nepalese legend, draining the Kathmandu Valley. One of the most beloved stories tells that in ancient times, the valley of Kathmandu was filled with a great lake. At the center of the lake, a lotus of unimaginable brilliance bloomed, radiating light. Upon this lotus rested a self-arisen flame, a sign of awakening. When Manjushri saw this, he understood. This was no ordinary lotus, it was a manifestation of enlightenment. But as long as the valley remained flooded, beings could not reach it. Out of compassion, Manjushri descended to the valley. With one stroke of his flaming sword, he cut through the hills at Chabhar Gorge, and the waters drained away. The valley became fertile land, where humans could live and practice the Dharma. At the center, the sacred flame remained, later becoming the site of the Swayambhanath Stupa, one of the most sacred shrines in Nepal. To this day, Nuors of Kathmandu revere Manjushri as their spiritual ancestor, the one who made their civilization possible. Legends across India and the Himalayas. Other stories speak of Manjushri appearing as a wandering ascetic, teaching seekers in mountain caves. Some say he dwelt in Mount Wu Tai Shan in China, appearing in visions to pilgrims as a monk, a child, or a radiant bodhisattva. In Tibet, there is a belief that Manjushri continues to guide beings in subtle forms. For instance, when great masters composed treatises on philosophy, they often invoked him, not merely as a muse, but as a living teacher whispering insight directly into their hearts. 5. Spread through Asia. Manjushri in India. In India, where Mahayana Buddhism blossomed, Manjushri was deeply woven into the life of monastic universities like Nalanda and Vikramashila. Scholars called on him before debates, prayers, and studies. His mantra, Ama Rapaka Nadihi, was recited daily, believed to sharpen the mind and give clarity. He was not a distant deity, but seen as the embodiment of wisdom itself, the living stream of insight that nourished India's great philosophical systems. Many commentaries describe monks having visions of Manjushri while meditating on profound topics like emptiness, sunyata. Journey to China. By the 3rd-4th century CE, Buddhism traveled along the Silk Road into China. There, Manjushri became known as Wangchupusa, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, the Bodhisattva of Wisdom. His name spread like wildfire among scholars, who saw in him the ideal of enlightened learning. One sacred mountain, Mount Wudai, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, in Shanxi province, became especially associated with him. Pilgrims believed Manjushri dwelled there in subtle forms, sometimes as a bright child, sometimes as a simple monk. Over centuries, emperors, monks, and ordinary villagers climbed its peaks seeking his blessings. Even today, Mount Wudai is one of the most sacred Buddhist pilgrimage sites in the world, a living reminder of Manjushri's presence. Manjushri in Nepal. In Nepal, as we saw with the story of Kathmandu Valley, Manjushri became both a culture hero and a spiritual protector. The Swayambhanath Stupa, which stands atop a hill in Kathmandu, remains a living shrine of his compassion and wisdom. Local legends still say that when people recite his mantra, they are calling back to the very being who made their land habitable. Manjushri in Tibet. When Buddhism spread into Tibet in the 7th-9th centuries, Manjushri entered not just as a bodhisattva, but as a lineage guide. Tibetans call him Jampalyang, and from the earliest translations of scriptures, he was invoked as the patron of knowledge. Tibetan monastic life, especially debates, always begin with an invocation to Jampalyang. For Tibetans, he is not abstract, he is the voice of clarity in the scholar's heart. 6. Manjushri and Tibetan lineages. Perhaps the most famous connection between Manjushri and Tibet is with the great master Je Tsongkhapa, 1357-1419, the founder of the Gelug school of Tibetan Buddhism. Tsongkhapa was renowned for his deep understanding of philosophy, yet he himself confessed that this understanding did not arise from his own brilliance alone. He was guided through visions of Manjushri, who appeared to him repeatedly. In these visions, Manjushri explained the most subtle points of Madhyamaka philosophy, the middle way teachings of Nagarjuna, clarifying doubts that even the greatest scholars struggled with. Because of this, Tsongkhapa's writings are considered not just intellectual works, but direct transmissions of Manjushri's wisdom. In this way, Manjushri is seen not only as an ancient figure from sutras, but as an active guide in Tibetan history, shaping entire schools of thought. Tibetan practitioners continue to call on him for wisdom in study. Students recite his mantra before memorizing texts. Clarity in meditation. Yogis invoke him when confusion arises. Insight in debate. Monks visualize his sword cutting through mistaken reasoning. Thus, in the flow of history, Manjushri was not merely adopted. He became the very backbone of Buddhist education and philosophy. 7. The voice of Manjushri. In the great Mahayana sutras, Manjushri is not simply a background figure. He is often the spokesperson of wisdom. When the Buddha speaks of emptiness, compassion, and the subtle nature of reality, it is often Manjushri who steps forward with questions that clarify the deepest truths. One famous scene occurs in the Vimalakirti Nirdesa Sutra. In this text, a layman named Vimalakirti is sick, and the Buddha sends bodhisattvas and disciples to visit him. But one by one, they all hesitate, for Vimalakirti's wisdom is so sharp that he exposes even the subtlest clinging in their minds. At last, the Buddha asks Manjushri to go. Manjushri accepts fearless. When he meets Vimalakirti, they engage in a profound dialogue about non-duality. Finally, Vimalakirti asks, "Tell me, Manjushri, what is the teaching of entering the non-dual Dharma?" Manjushri replies with many subtle words, showing how wisdom sees beyond all opposites. But when it is Vimalakirti's turn to answer, he simply remains silent. That silence is said to be the perfect expression of non-duality, and Manjushri bows, acknowledging its truth. This story reminds us that wisdom is not just intellectual brilliance. It is the courage to go beyond words, to see reality directly. Manjushri teaches that true wisdom unites clarity and compassion, never one without the other. 8. Symbols and meanings. Every detail of Manjushri's form is a teaching in itself. Flaming sword fire cuts through ignorance, illusion, and false views. It represents sharp analysis, reason, and clarity of mind. Lotus with the Sutra cherry scroll symbolizes the flowering of wisdom beyond worldly stains. The scripture is usually the Prajnaparamita Sutra, reminding us that wisdom is not only learned, but lived. Youthful appearance glowing star, he is forever young, often shown as a 16-year-old. This reflects that wisdom is fresh, radiant, and ever-renewing, not stale or heavy. Peaceful smile, smiling face with smiling eyes, wisdom is not harsh or cold. True wisdom brings gentleness, compassion, and joy. Golden hue sparkles. His body is often painted golden or orange, representing the brilliance of wisdom shining through all confusion. In Tibetan art, Manjushri often sits in meditation, but ready to act. His right hand wields the sword above his head, poised to cut through delusion at any moment, while his left hand calmly holds the lotus and scripture, showing the union of action and contemplation. This balance is essential. Wisdom is not just sharp like a blade, nor only gentle like a lotus. It is both, a fierce compassion that liberates beings from ignorance. 9. Manjushri in culture and practice. Manjushri is not only remembered in books or temples, he is invoked in daily practice across Asia. His presence is woven into prayers, mantras, rituals, art, and even the education systems of monasteries. The mantra of wisdom. The most famous invocation of Manjushri is Om E Rapa Kana Dihi. These syllables are known as the 5 seed sounds of wisdom. A, the beginning of all knowledge, symbolizing emptiness. Ra, the fire of analysis. Pa, clarity of expression. Ka, memory and retention. Na, wisdom unfolding into teaching. The final seed syllable, Dihi, is recited many times, said to awaken wisdom directly in the heart. Tibetan monks often repeat it before debates, exams, or even when struggling to understand a difficult text. It is both a prayer and a practice tool. Monastic debates. In Tibetan monasteries, scholarly debate is central to training. Before debates begin, monks join their palms and recite. I go for refuge, to the Bodhisattva Jampalyang. This invocation sets the tone. Debate is not about defeating others, but about cutting ignorance with the sword of wisdom. In this way, Manjushri is present in every intellectual exchange, guiding it toward truth. Art and iconography. From the caves of Dunhuang in China to the monasteries of Tibet and Nepal, Manjushri's image appears everywhere. In murals, golden statues, and Thangka paintings. As a youthful prince, often riding a lion, symbol of fearless truth. Sometimes in tantric forms, more wrathful or multiple-armed, representing different aspects of wisdom. Every depiction serves as a mirror for practitioners, reminding them that wisdom is not outside, it is their own inner potential awakened. 10. Modern relevance. In today's world, filled with information overload, Manjushri's message is more relevant than ever. Knowledge is abundant, but wisdom, the ability to discern truth from illusion, compassion from selfishness, is rare. Manjushri reminds us that wisdom is not just knowing many things, but seeing clearly into the heart of reality. Wisdom is not cold analysis, but united with compassion, guiding action for the benefit of others. Wisdom is not something only for monks or scholars. It is available to anyone who seeks clarity and truth in their life. Across the globe, practitioners still recite his mantra, visualize his radiant form, and pray for wisdom in times of confusion. Teachers say that whenever a person suddenly understands something deeply, when the fog of confusion clears and truth shines bright, that moment is the blessing of Manjushri. From the cosmic origins of Mahayana Buddhism to the valleys of Nepal, the peaks of Wutai-Shan, and the monasteries of Tibet, Manjushri Jampalyang has always been more than a figure in scripture. He is the living flame of wisdom, timeless, youthful, compassionate. His flaming sword still cuts through the darkness of ignorance. His lotus still blooms in the muddy waters of the world. His smile still shines in the hearts of seekers. And so his biography does not end, for Manjushri's story is the story of wisdom itself, ever ancient, ever new, waiting for each of us to recognize it within ourselves.